Hello and welcome back to Football Index Moneyball. For today's pick, we have an exciting young Spanish central midfielder who at 21 has amassed over 9,000 minutes of men's football, playing at one of the biggest clubs in the world. We're going to take a look at how his slow start to the season has led to a stagnant price, leaving a great opportunity to get him before the season takes off for him, for a price that is below what he would have cost you in December of 2018. We've got a very interesting target price analysis today with some great alternate purchase options and a really compelling argument for purchasing this player or one of the others based on the statistics. And then I have a bonus price comparison with a similar player who's a couple of years older, which for me makes this pick even more appealing as a long-term hold. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to go through a couple of players who I really wanted to tip to you guys, but I didn't really think there was a compelling enough case at this stage to make a video about them. So I've been thinking for a while about whether or not I should put the players out there. I didn't really want to just post the names on Twitter because I'm not really into pumping players until I know that they're really good players. So I just wanted to highlight them because I think there could be some opportunity there, and I think for those of you who do watch the videos and watch to the end, it's worth knowing who they are before they potentially become popular on the index. Before we get going, just the usual reminder, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. If you want to follow me on Twitter, then you can search @IndexMoneyball. And if you're new to Football Index and you haven't signed up yet, there's links to sign up to Football Index and to Football Index Edge in the comment section below. So for today's pick, the player I went for is Carlos Alena. Now I did mention that I was purchasing Alena in my live trade video after the deposit bonus, so for some of you this might be covering some old ground. But ever since I've made the video, I've been looking for players to use as potential pick of the days, and I keep coming back to Alena. I really wanted to do the full analysis on him as he seems super undervalued, and now that I've done it, I'm really glad I did, as I think it's just a matter of time for this player, and it gives me a lot more confidence in my original purchase now, and I actually have added to the position since as well. So for those of you who don't know, Alena is a 21-year-old central midfielder who plays at Barcelona. He's currently sitting at 94p, which isn't the cheapest, but for a 21-year-old it's a decent price. When we take a look at his one-year graph, you can see that the price looks a lot more reasonable, as he actually broke the £1 barrier for the first time on the 4th of December in 2018. And he's been up and down around 80p to £1 ever since. Now since then, the index has grown massively, and due to his limited opportunities at Barcelona, Alena has been left behind a bit, which is great for us, as that means when he does get the chance, either at Barca from a loan or from a transfer, it's very likely he's going to have tons of room for growth. Similar to the last pick I did, I see this as a pretty long-term hold and one that I plan to add to over time until he does get his break in the team. But in my experience, those are the players who tend to make the most money. One example of this I've got from this week is from Tashan Oakley-Booth at Tottenham. I bought him last season for 35p and he's had a few up and downs since, but he's been a pretty boring hold. Then this week he scored a goal in an academy match and his price jumped up to 62p for a 77% profit. And that's without even making the bench for Tottenham. Now this is obviously a little bit different for Alena, who's already in the senior squad at Barca, but it still just shows that if you can wait out the lulls before a player gets his chance, then you can make big profits. So now I've come over to Transfermarkt to have a look at Carlos Alena. And we can see here he's a 21-year-old Spanish international playing for the under-21s. He's just got 2 caps so far, but the Spanish under-21 team tend to play a lot of 23-year-olds. They usually push the limit to try and win the tournaments like they did this year in the under-21 European Championships where they beat Germany. He has got a couple of trophies already. He was part of the league winning side last season, and he was also part of the Spanish Cup winning side in 16-17 and 17-18. And if we look down at his stats, you can see he's only got 45 minutes in the league so far this year. So now I've just jumped over to his overall balance for his total career stats, and these 3 leagues here are all men's leagues. The only games here that are youth league are these 2, I think, 6 and 8 appearances. So the 2B Grupo is basically the 3rd division in Spain. Liga 2 is the 2nd division. In Spain, the youth teams don't play in separate leagues. They just play in the men's leagues, but they can't play in La Liga. There used to be a lot of the teams in La Liga 2, but now there's actually none because La Liga 2 has become much more competitive. But he was in the final season for Barcelona 2 in the Liga 2, which was 2 seasons ago, I think. And he had a pretty good year playing against some fairly good teams. He got 11 goals and 4 assists there, and then he's still only 21, so a lot of these would have come when he was pretty young. But he's got 21 league appearances and 2 goals so far. Then Copa del Rey, like I said, he's won that twice. And then he's had 3 appearances in the Champions League as well to go with it. But his overall stats over the full career is 27 goals, 15 assists over what equates to just over 103 matches worth of football, which comes out at about 0.42, I think it is, which is pretty good going for a central midfielder, and especially because he's played a lot of his more senior football in fits and spurts, lots of time on the bench, small appearances coming on for a few minutes. And the other thing to look at, since I've got it right here, is he's fairly versatile. He's not amazingly good out of position, but he can play there, so that gives him a little bit more hope of breaking into the team this year. And one thing to note is last season he did come into the team only from about November onwards. So once the Champions League and the League Cup and all that kind of stuff kick off, Barcelona tend to rotate a little bit more. And he has been in the squads, he's been getting on the bench recently, so I think it's a matter of time before he starts playing, and I'm just going to keep adding to a position, like I said. So I've just come over to Carlos Alena's foot mob. I did do something similar in the live stream video, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of stats. So last season, Alena played 17 La Liga matches, starting 6 of them, and averaged 37 minutes per game. This was his first season with the senior squad, so that's a fairly good return when you're playing at a team like Barcelona. He only managed 2 goals and no assists, but he did manage a PB score of 209 on the old matrix with a game-winning goal in a 2-0 win over Alaves in April. So you can see there that he's got total passes of 573, and that was the one stat that really impressed me about this player. So last season, if you were to work out his passes per 90, it comes to 74.5 completed passes per 90. That's a huge total considering how the new matrix favours passing, and to top that off, it was at a completion rate of 92%. So for the target profit analysis today, I managed to get players who were all 21-year-old central midfielders, which makes things a lot easier. All these players also play in PB leagues, with teams playing in Europe with the exception of Maxime Lopez, and are not regulars for their international teams, so they won't be likely to be playing in either the Euro qualifiers or the finals. For the comparable players, I went for Amadou Hadara at Leipzig and Maxime Lopez at Marseille. As you can see, both these players are currently around 10% cheaper than Carlos. I actually do own Hadara as well, but I bought him last season at a cheaper price, so this was more of a comparison to either top up Alena, Hadara, or purchase Maxime Lopez. And to be honest, I could have easily made this video about Amadou Hadara. He's definitely someone who people should consider. So once I'd finished researching and inputting the info into the table, I pretty much removed Lopez from consideration straight away. With his much lower goals and assists per 90 and the lack of European football, his one advantage is that he's getting much more game time than the other two, but in my opinion he doesn't have the same potential, so even though he was cheaper, it doesn't make him appealing enough for me. Then for Hadara, it was a much tougher decision. He's got slightly better goals and assists per 90 than Alena, but he got a large portion of those goals and assists in an Austrian league playing with RB Salzburg, who absolutely dominated that league. So in the end I made my decision to go on the following factors. First of all, I watched the highlights of each player and thought Alena had more potential to be world class. Then there's the fact that Alena is European, so if he was to have a real breakout season, he could potentially go to the Euros with Spain. Also, Barcelona are more likely to go deep in all the competitions they're playing in, so Alena could potentially benefit from those additional games. But I do think that there's a really strong case for both these players, and I will be more than likely topping up both of these if they stay around the current prices or drop. And that's mainly down to the results I got from this target price analysis. So for the low target, I went for Valverde at Real Madrid. Valverde has featured in a few games recently, which has seen his price spike. But when you look at his stats in terms of minutes played at senior level and goals and assists per 90, where he has 0.11 over 6,372 minutes versus Alena's 0.41 over 9,266 minutes. To me, Alena is far and away the more valuable player, so should easily eclipse this price if he manages to get some minutes. For the mid-price, I went for Rain Adelaide, who has just signed for Lyon. Now, again, when you look at his statistics, Alena is still ahead of Adelaide in terms of combined goals and assists, with a return at 0.26 for Adelaide versus Alena's 0.41. And Adelaide has only got 6,978 minutes to his name, so for young players it can be important how many minutes they've played, because it tends to help them grow in confidence and develop faster when they're getting more minutes. But again, Adelaide's probably playing a little bit more regularly right now than Alena. Then for the top end target, I went for Houssem Aouar. Again, he's at Lyon, and this one's actually a pretty close comparison on the stats with 0.42 goals and assists over 8,615 minutes. So the main difference between Alena and all these players is just the more recent game time. As on paper, he has the quality, and if you watch him play, you can definitely see that too. So this leaves us with a target profit range of 13% for the low, 60% for the mid, and 141% for the high. For this pick, I'm looking at the high target, as I think that if Alena gets a few appearances and has a good run of form, then he could easily achieve this price. Another thing to consider is the possibility of a transfer for Alena. If he were to get a loan to another PB League team, then that could see him get the opportunity to really showcase his skills, and to be fair, we haven't really seen what he's capable of on the senior stage. The last thing I wanted to highlight is the comparison of Alena with Dani Ceballos at Arsenal. These two have a very similar playing style, and Ceballos has had a really similar early career at Real Madrid before getting his loan away to Arsenal. And again, on paper, if you look at the stats, Alena comes out pretty well. Ceballos has got a combined goal and assist record of 0.22 per 90 over 10,836 minutes. So with Ceballos being 2 years older as well, that could definitely give us hope for this pick, even if he was to take a couple of years to fully develop. There's still room for lots of profit. So as promised, there's just a couple of players I'm going to show you here. I'm not going to go into too much detail on them, but I would encourage you to do a bit of research and check the background on them, because I think there's potential for some really big rises. But I think they're probably going to be rises that come very quickly without real proof or with enough data for me to actually make a video on them. So I was thinking about it, and I did the full analysis actually on one of these players, and I realised that it was going to be hard to make a really good case the same way that I do for the rest of the pick of the days. But at the same time, I didn't want to not give you guys the chance to get in early. So the two players I wanted to highlight is Alex Garcia, who is on loan from Man City to Royal XL Mouscron in the Belgian league. And when I first started researching this player, I wasn't sure how competitive the Belgian league was. And when I looked at it, it's actually really competitive. It's fairly close to the Dutch league in terms of the FIFA rankings, and there's some really big teams in it playing in Europe. So he's definitely someone I would suggest you look up. He scored 4 goals in his first 4 games for them. He was on loan at a Spanish team last year. I can't recall exactly who. But the other player that I wanted to show you is Eric Gutierrez. So he's at PSV, and he's missed the first couple of games for PSV in the Europa League because he broke his hand on the last international break playing for Mexico. He's 24 years old and he signed for them last January. But when you look at his stats, he actually has got some pretty impressive stats, and this season he started every game until he broke his hand, and he's just not fully broke back into the team yet. But I do think this is a player that could potentially return 200-300% profit. But like I said, it's very hard to make the case for it right now. It's all dependent on performances. And when he has those performances, if they come in the Europa League, the price will be gone. So I just wanted to let you guys know about those two for maybe a chance for you to do some research and see what you think of them. That's all we've got for you on today's pick. Again, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment and subscribe. Also, if you know someone else who might like the video, then sharing with them would really help me out. There are links in the description for signing up to Football Index and Football Index Edge if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel for more strategy videos and the other picks of the day. Most picks are long-term holds with depressed prices for some reason or other, so often the picks can still offer the same value, if not better, a few weeks after. And the research methods and reasoning can help if you're new to the index and want to learn to analyse your own players. Thanks for watching, good luck on the index.